Hi, welcome to CMO Insights, the podcast series. I'm your host, Jeff Pedowitz, President and CEO of the Pedowitz Grup. Today, as our guest, we have the Chief Amazement Officer, Shep Hyken, who runs Shepherd Promotions. Shep, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you are absolutely a legend, multiple books, expert in customer experience. I'm curious, why is it so hard to get a good customer experience anymore?
Uh,
It just seems like everywhere we go, it's that no one can seem to get it right.
I don't think that's the case. I think there is some great. Now, I know a lot of our people listening today are B2B, but we do a lot of research. And here's what, and every year I make this prediction that the customer's smarter than they were last year. And the reason is there's companies like Amazon and Apple and any of the other iconic brands, Chick-fil-A and the fast food quick serve industry. Anyway, all of these companies have created great experiences and customers like them, and they start to expect them from every other company they do business with. As a result, some of the companies can or can't match that benchmark or that bar that has been, steadily been raised as these companies just keep getting better and better at it. And even though these companies are giving a pretty good level of service, it doesn't compare to what these customers want. In the B2B world, everybody is a consumer and they are comparing their experiences to consumer experiences, whether they want to or not. It's hard to not get into that. I was working with a healthcare organization, and we were doing an exercise that we talk about what companies we love to do business with. And I realize healthcare is selling to a patient, but it's interesting. What I'm about to share with you has to do with one of their vendors, an imaging piece of imaging equipment over $500,000. So, that's expensive. Okay. Was to be delivered at a certain time. So when we were talking about the companies we love doing business with, somebody says, I like Amazon. Why do you like Amazon? Well, I just feel like I have control of the situation. I know what's happening. The moment I place the order, I get an email. Then they tell me it's shipping and they give me the tracking info. And then they let me know when it arrives. And if there's a problem, they let me know there's a problem. They tell me I just know everything. I feel good about it. And this executive said to me, well, we're not Amazon. And I said, you're not, but that's what your patients are expecting. And then he said, I kind of get it because we had this huge x-ray machine that was supposed to be delivered to our hospital, and they delivered it 2 weeks early. We had to build the room out to accommodate this piece of equipment. And all they had to do is email me. And then the guy said, you're right. Even when I order like Kleenex from Amazon or toilet paper, they let me know it's on its way. He compared that $500,000 piece of equipment being sold to his hospital to toilet paper being sold at Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. And look, there are certainly good examples out there, but I don't know. I still find them few and far between. And with a lot of businesses, one of the things that always I found curious, in a lot of ways, businesses have more information about their customers than B2C companies do because you have accounting systems, ERP, CRM, marketing, and you're getting all these different touch points, but yet all the data is siloed. I think we have the opportunity, if we can get it all together, to serve the customer better, but it still seems disjointed. It's still coming across as one department versus one company serving the customer. What, famous stories about Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos has the empty chair and all those kinds of things. But practically speaking, when you look at B2B companies, what are some steps they need to take to start becoming more customer centric?
So first of all, it all starts with the culture, and in a B2B world, let's start there. And there's other things we can talk about. I have a 6-step process that we put our clients through. The first is, and I'll go through them real quickly. The first is they have to define what their service vision is. It needs to be one sentence or less. Oftentimes it's baked into their mission statements and value statements and whatever else other statements they have. It is in the middle, but it needs to be pulled out or it needs to be created separately. And then again, it needs to be one sentence long. A great example is the Ritz-Carlton. 9 words. We're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. It's very easy for everybody to know, remember, understand. And then they create training that drives that vision. All right, so number 1 is create the vision. Number 2, communicate it again and again. And by the way, this is not a one-time thing. It's not a theme for the year. It's for good. So when you decide what this vision is going to be, it sits right next to your bigger value statements and mission statements and your pillars or whatever you want to call them, right? So communicate it again and again so everybody remembers it and is reminded. Number 3, train everybody to it. Even people behind the scenes don't realize they impact the experience either by dealing, if they're not directly with the customer, they're dealing with somebody that supports the customer, or they are part of the process. And if it breaks down, it's going to impact that top, what I call the touch point at some level where the customer will say, hey, what happened here? So that's 3, training. Number 4 is leadership, management, supervisors, whoever is, has a team working with them or for them, they have to step up and be role models and exhibit the behaviors that you want shared. And number 5, what's number 5? Number 5 is defend the culture. If somebody is out of alignment, the boss has to say, we got to get you back into alignment. By the way, the buck stops at the top, like the president, who was the president that said the buck stops here? Not Eisenhower. Truman. Yep. From St. Louis, or not St. Louis, from Independence, Missouri, actually. Anyway, I digress. So leadership must defend the culture, or a boss of any kind, if they see a person, or maybe it's a department, or if it's a huge company, it's people that are out of alignment, maybe it's a region, all right? And finally, number 6, if it's all working, celebrate it. So define it, communicate it, train everybody, set an example if you're a leader or a boss. Number 5 is defend the culture. Number 6 is celebrate it when it's working and let people know they're doing a great job.
So I
did that about as fast as I've ever done that.
No, that's good. And hey, you can recall it's perfect. So one thing I noticed you did not, so you talked a lot about process and management and culture. You did not mention technology. We see so many companies rushing to implement some piece of technology to improve something, to scale, but yet they don't do many of the things you just said. Well, why do you think that is? Do they view technology as a panacea?
So here's the thing about technology. Love it. And if you look at what's happened since the beginning of all-time customer service, somebody has a problem or a question, they need it answered, they want the problem resolved, the complaint, figured out, and they want to be happy. And by the way, 100 years from now, it's the same thing. So what's really changed is how we go about making that customer happy or getting that customer the information they want. It used to be the only way to do it was on a phone. Then there was email. Then there's text. Now there's chats. Now there's messaging. Now there's social channels. There's apps that you can go on there. There's so many different ways. Artificial intelligence with chatbots, tutorials on a website with video, so many different ways to get customers their answers. The problem with technology is not the problem. Technology isn't the problem. It's the company that decides to implement too much technology, distancing themselves from their customers. And therefore, they put up this wall. They don't intentionally do it. Oftentimes, they become enamored with the technology, or they see it as a way, if we put this out there, we won't get so many calls and we can get rid of some of our customer support people. No, that's not what you want to do. Technology should aid and assist. That's the way it's going to work for the next 3 to 5 years at least. I do not see artificial intelligence killing the customer support agent, just like video did not kill the radio star, right?
That's true. But I do think I see a lot of businesses viewing customer service as a function to outsource or to move offshore because it's all about the efficiency.
I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me at all. However, if the experience is poor, you can blame it on the offshoring. But I've worked with plenty of customer service reps, worked with plenty of companies that use offshore, independent, third-party, BPOs, whatever you want to call them, and they do a magnificent job. Here's why. They will not let anybody on the phone talk to a customer unless they've been properly trained and, for lack of a better term, I'll use the word certified. They have to go through the training. They have to hit a certain level, and only then will these companies allow these people to step in. And you know what? They pay a little bit more for it. If they are going offshore, a little bit more might mean 50 cents an hour more. Okay, which, by the way, that's a lot of money when you start to add it all up, but still they recognize the value. So I think the biggest problem that companies have is they become enamored with technology and they distance themselves. And as far as using offshore help, I'm all for it if it's the right help for the right reasons and they're good. Sure, there's plenty of lower end support, not just offshore, but here in the U.S. And by the way, if you are so proud of the fact that you've got a contact center with all U.S. employees, Are those U.S. employees any good? Are you properly training them? Are you hiring the right people? What's your turnover and churn? Because that's an indication that you have a bad culture and a bad system in place. And what you want to do is be working with, if you are in the position to hire people, I'll give you, I mean, I realize it's a little bit dated. I did this interview about 7, 8 years ago with a guy named Jim Bush. He was the senior VP worldwide of customer service for American Express. Wonderfully generous man with his time and his insights. And he said, look, we are going to pay our people well. We're not going to measure them on how many calls they take an hour. We're going to measure them on how happy our customers are at the end of the call. Now, that doesn't mean they keep them on the phone for hours like the legendary Zappos call that somebody was on a support call for 9 hours. But, by the way, that whole 9 hours, there was probably about 5 to 7 minutes of support, and then about 9 hours or 8 hours and 45 minutes of schmoozing and really making that customer love Zappos. And that's, by the way, what Tony Hsieh wanted. He wanted these legendary examples. But we don't necessarily need to do that. But we do need to make sure that when we're finished with the conversation, that customer is happy with the results and the experience and everything that happened. And then Jim Bush went on to say that, we can hire lots of people with call center background, and this is great. They're knowledgeable about how to work the computers. And if you've ever been into a support center, there's these, I don't know how they do it. I get a headache watching how fast it's like unbelievable. They're so amazing, the way they work. But he said, if he had a choice between hiring someone with that experience or hiring somebody who worked at a hotel at the front desk, who has the hospitality mentality, he would rather take that hospitality mentality and teach them how to bump around the screens in the different programs that they have. I thought, wow, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because that's really what you need. You need the person who wants to please people, who wants to take care, who wants to solve problems. By the way, some people get burnt out on it, while others they love the controversy and turning somebody around, and that's what makes them happy.
Aspect. But I think that's more than a call center. I think today's marketing organizations should be hiring. Today's sales organizations should be hiring for that key ingredient, right? You want people that are not just good at what they do. You want them to be passionate about customer service, about wanting to care about the customer, because that's the missing ingredient. Because some of these things, you could teach a process. You could teach someone how to use a tool, but you can't teach attitude. You can't teach values. So you either are inherently wired that way or not.
So it's a technical side and a soft side. You can hire a server at a restaurant, and if they have a bad attitude, no matter how efficient they are at bringing the food out and clearing the table, customer's going to question whether they want to come back. If you have somebody that's never served before, but they have this great go-to attitude, take care of it, just like I was saying before, you can teach them what side they're supposed to pick up the dishes from and how to properly set it down. That's the technical side of service. It's really easy to do technical. It's very difficult to get that right attitude. One of the exercises we do that's a lot of fun, and if you think about it, whether it's a sales organization, a marketing organization, or a service department within the organization, you should ask, what are the traits of somebody that's great at customer service, great at giving that experience? And just like, let's come up with words. And people will say, problem solver. They'll say attitude, sense of humor, and all these words. You'll probably get 20, 30 of them. Do you know that 80 to 90% of those are attitudes, not skills? And when you start to separate, there's very few skills needed to deliver the service experience, and many of the skills can be taught. But if you can get somebody with those other attitudes when you hire them, you are in a position to win. And again, marketing. I know a lot of people on listening are marketing people. My friend Tom Baldwin, who's currently the CEO of Benihana's, the restaurant chain, he was the CEO of Morton's before that, which is where we first met. And he said the best marketing, the marketing department for Morton's, was the servers and everybody else in the front line, the bus people, the host, because those are the people that make sure that nobody walks out unhappy. And he said great service is mistakes handled well. Because when you go to Morton's and you spend a lot of money for a steak, you expect it to be right. If there's a mistake and it's handled well, you restore the confidence.
No, it's well said. I mean, I think most of us have grace, understanding. I don't think we expect any company to be perfect. but we just expect them to handle the mistakes and issues perfectly, or at least close to it. And I know when we work with sales organizations, we talk, there's like really three parts to being a good salesperson. The first part is the hustle factor, right? You're out, you're meeting your clients, you're talking to people, you're researching, you're doing those kinds of things. The second part is asking questions, qualifying for need, understanding whether or not there's a fit with the company. And the third part, of course, is managing the sales cycle mechanics, contracts and all those other things. Those last two parts, those could be taught. You can't teach the first part. You can't teach someone to, if you don't want to learn about your customers, if you don't want to do the research, if you don't want to put the effort in, it doesn't matter if we teach you the second two parts, right? Because you're not going to be successful. So you have to truly love what you do, and you have to want to love the customer to be successful at being customer service oriented.
Yep. And if you're not, it's going to show through. And, we talked a little bit about culture at the beginning. What's happening on the inside of an organization, and that's every employee, not just people on the front line, but what's happening inside is going to be felt on the outside by the customer every time.
And there's a lot of talk about authenticity in today's modern age, right? Being authentic, and people, I think, can sense when you're not.
Yeah. I just wrote an article, and I always do a cartoon every week. By the way, you mentioned the empty chair at Amazon, and I interviewed Bill Price is his name. I'm looking over at his book right now, and he was the first VP of customer service at Amazon that was ever hired. And I asked him, is it true about the empty chair? He said, oh, yeah, I was there at the first meeting. They did that. So my cartoon is an open door. Okay. And it's like, why is the door open? In case the customer wants to come in. And then somebody says, they can't come in the building. Building security is not going to let them in. Well, we just pretend they might come. But but to the point, gosh, I was going there. There is a cartoon that's coming up next week that I wrote. Oh, now I'm drawing a blank on what it is. Lost my train of thought. That happens. I saw a squirrel. Is that what it is? A squirrel went by.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, it's all right. But yeah, I think it's important to keep that healthy mindset, because as managers, we get focused on solving problems, right? We need to get the campaign out. We need to fix a personnel issue, a technology issue. We have to pave the parking lot, whatever that is. And we get caught up in putting out the fires. And it's so easy to get caught up in the job that we forget that the job is to take care of the customer, whether we sell products or we sell services. But we don't have a business without the customer. So
So years ago, Ted Levitt, senior professor at Harvard Business School, since passed away, wrote a book, Marketing Imagination. And this is really important. The function of a business. If I were to walk out on the street and ask what the function of a business is, what do you think 90% of the people, maybe 99% of the people would say?
Make money.
Exactly.
Yep.
He said that's a goal. The function is to get and keep your customers. Acquisition and maintenance. And I believe in the acquiring mode today, you have to acquire with a level of service. That's not like customer service reactive to problems. Service is not a department, it's a philosophy. So the way we treat people on the way into doing business with them is then hopefully what they expect and experience once they choose to do business with us. And it doesn't matter if it's B2B, B2C, B2B2C, it makes no difference. So once they're there, you acquire them. Now you must maintain them. And it's not just about making sure that things are perfect. It's engaging them. Today's customer, more than ever, wants to be engaged, whether they know. I mean, some people say, please don't ever email me. I will call you. But TikTok and Instagram, there's all these feeds, right? And the big opportunity in business today is to create personalized, actually, I'll even say it's not even personalized, it's personal to the individual customer. You give them a feed of what they're interested in. Artificial intelligence can understand the customer and make sure the right content that only applies to them. So, for example, I may have a medical situation, and there might be 3 versions of this, but because and my hospital or healthcare system or insurance company is going to feed me information about the general situation I'm in, and then when they understand based on what I'm buying, prescriptions, what type of problem I have, they start to narrow it down. So it's really me. It's really just me they're talking to. I love that. And this is what the opportunity in marketing is today. You market with a personalized experience. And I'll put it all under the umbrella of customer experience, because that's really what it is. A number of years ago, I said, customer experience is marketing. I wasn't the first one to say it, but there were 100 people that said it about the same time. It is all marketing.
Given that so many of us have a lot of our business comes from existing clients and providing ongoing service communication is important, but why do you think marketing and sales spend so much time on getting new customers and so little time on communicating and marketing to its existing customers?
Once again, the function of the business is to acquire and maintain. The maintenance of that customer is crucial. There's no doubt. There's every stat, and it doesn't matter whether it says it's 3 times, 5 times, or 25 times more expensive to acquire than it is to maintain. So why don't we do what we need to do to get people in the door? And if we see the churn happening, we need to understand why the churn is there. Where is the breakdown? And the best way to do that is through surveying the customer the right way. We can spend a whole time talking about surveys, but to understand the touch points that the customers have. Journey map the heck out of your business. Every type of interaction that the customer is going to have with you, there needs to be a journey map so you can understand where all the touch points are and what happens behind the scenes that drive those touch points. Where is the possibility for failure? And at the top line where the customer is interacting with your company, and it could be through the sales process, through a follow-up, whatever, a repeat customer. Where can we improve those touch points? And that's what the best companies do. They know exactly where the hiccups can come from, and they do what they can to mitigate, if not eliminate them.
Well said. Well, Shep, it's easy to see why you're so successful, why so many people read your books, why you're sought after.
Yeah, I just have fun. I love this. I'm so passionate about it. You can tell.
I absolutely can tell, and I love that, and I think passion is what we all need a little bit more of, right? But thank you so much for being on the program, sharing your insights. Shep Hyken, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.